Hello and welcome back. I'm Joseph Hoffman, and in this lesson we're going to wrap up learning the second movement of Clementi's Sonatina Opus 36, number 1. Let's get started by checking out the score. Okay, let's do a little bit of analysis for the left hand. I'll draw some more boxes. And here, figure out this interval. Okay, pause the video and try and analyze, figure out the names of these chords and this interval, then press play and we'll look at it together. Okay, what'd you get here? F, A, C, that's our F major chord. That should come as no surprise, right? The right hand's doing an F major chord. It would sound a little strange for the left hand to be doing something other than an F major chord. And here we have a whole 2 measures straight of F major broken chords in the left hand. Actually, and then one more measure down here. So lots of F major broken chords for the left hand. And what interval here? We had a low C up to a B flat. What interval? That's a 7th. Kind of a rare interval, right? Up a 7th. One step away from being an octave. And what'd you get down here? We had an A, a C, and an F. You'll see that 4th plus a 3rd. That's a clue that we have an inversion. I can look at the top note of the 4th. That tells me that's my root, which I can put down here. So we know that's an F major chord. Over here, we have a B flat, D, G. What do you think about that? So once again, here's a 4th, so we put the G on the bottom. That's a G minor chord, which also shouldn't be a surprise because what's the right hand doing? The right hand's playing a G minor chord. Both hands have a broken G minor chord going on there. And then, you know, there are 2 more chords that I think we ought to analyze too that I didn't draw a box on. So let's look at these together. As I forgot that the left hand keeps changing every beat in this measure. We have a G minor chord there, and then right here we have a C, F, A. Can you figure this one out? What's the root of this chord? Look for the 4th. Top note tells you the root. So F is the root. We can put that C on top. We're an F major chord. And then what chord do we have here? C, E, G. That's C major. And then we finish with what? You see that that is an F major chord with an extra F on top. It's just an F major arpeggio. Okay? Now, just like we did with the right hand, sometimes it's helpful to go through and circle all of the B's so you can remember to flat them. And remember that in a key signature, it's any B on the staff, not just the B that's on this line. For example, here's a C, this is a B, and it's this higher B, not on the line where you see the flat here, but we still flat it. Any B on the staff of a key signature with that flat should get flat. So we need to flat that B, we need to flat this B. If you like, you can pause the video and go through, find all the B's, and circle them so you'll be sure to flat them when we play it. And that can help out. That's up to you. Otherwise, let's keep going and try learning this from the top of the page. Today, I'd like you mostly to figure this out on your own, but I want to give you a few clues first. Look here in measure 14. One thing that's tricky about this is when you mix flats and sharps. Remember here we have a C, and then this B flat, and then an F sharp. So we have that B flat and F sharp. So they're actually going to be closer together than you might think. It looks like a 4th on the page, but once you flat this one and sharp this one, it's really not that far apart on the piano. So watch out for that. C, B flat, F sharp, G. Watch out for that. And then in measure 16, finger 2 starts on the B flat, then your finger 1 has to sneak under your finger 2 for that A, and then finger 2 is going to reach over down a third to F, and that will put you in position for this octave jump from C to C in measure 17. Okay, so watch that again. Measure 16, 2, B flat, thumb comes under, finger 2 on F, 1 and 2. And play those C's gently. We don't want to hammer that out. 1 and 2. A gentle thumb. Really gentle on that. Okay, and then in 18, your 2 comes over your thumb. See that 1, 2, 1, but then your fingers come right back to this F major pentascale to bring you back to measure 19 for the recapitulation. Now, the rest, I want to see if you can figure out on your own. So pause the video, and I want you to tackle this entire page 2 from measure 14 all the way to the end with your left hand alone. Be sure to watch the fingerings. Be sure to watch out for the B flats. Everything that you've learned so far, try and apply it. Think about the chords that you're playing. Use the analysis we just did, and try and learn these notes. And then press play, and we'll look at it together. Okay, let's look at the left hand part from measure 14 to the end. If you'd like to try playing along with me, you can, or if you'd like to listen, that's fine too. I'll count 3 beats, and then my left hand will start here in measure 14. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and B flat, 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and then we've got all these F major broken chords, 1 and 2 and 3 and 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 1 and 2. Now I started adding in some of the right hand just to make it a little more interesting and so you could hear how it's going to sound hands together. I was only expecting you to play the left hand, so I hope you didn't feel stressed that I started adding in the right hand. That was just, again, to show you how it will sound. There are a few places that when you do it hands together, I want you to really pay attention to. For example, when you do these trills, remember that the right hand will play 2 notes for every 1 note that your left hand plays. So the right hand will be playing basically 16th notes in a triplet style, if that makes sense. So you'll fit 6 of them, da, 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 in the space that you're playing 3 notes in the left hand. Ba, 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 ba. So listen to measure 21, 1 and 2 and that was kind of slow motion. Here's full speed. Okay, let's keep going. Now here, remember that you've got this dotted 8th note followed by a 16th note. So that 16th note has to come after your left hand plays all 3 of its notes. Hear how I did that? Da, ba, 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 ba. So it's going to kind of sneak in there. Ba, 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 da, 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 da. Now, remember that if you have a quarter note, there's 3 notes of triplet happening for each quarter note. Like in measure 17, 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and okay, now pause the video, and I want you to choose one section that you want to try hands together. It could just be 1 or 2 measures today. Okay, it's going to take you maybe all week to put the whole thing hands together, and that's okay. Just take a little bit at a time. Choose one part you want to tackle hands together. And what I recommend is choosing a measure and maybe try right hand alone 2 times, left hand alone 2 times. Make sure you're confident hands alone, and then try it hands together. And if you're stumbling a lot, maybe go back to right hand alone, left hand alone, then try it together again. Go really slowly the first time and gradually increase speed until it feels confident. Pause the video to choose one short section to try hands together, then press play to go on. Now, on your own, it's up to you to do lots of practicing until it's mastered hands together. I suggest you do that in small sections at first. Choose like 2 measures, maybe even 1 measure till it's mastered, then grow that to 2 measures, grow that to 4 measures. And the metronome can also be a useful tool. Once you feel like you have a whole section mastered, maybe the whole page, put the metronome on at, say, 96 beats per minute, and this will be your triplet pulse. This is 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 1. Every click is 1 eighth note triplet. 1 and a 2 and 3. The great thing about metronome practice is it feels slow sometimes, but it will also show you where your bumpy places are. You might just be going along and say, oh, this feels kind of slow, but then suddenly your fingers will get tripped up and you'll be like, aha, now I know where I need to practice. So maybe you'll stop and just work on that one measure where you had a tricky spot and make the tricky spot an easy spot. By just doing it enough times, 5 times, 10 times, you can turn any tricky spot into an easy spot just by repeating it. If you repeat it correctly, you'll get better. But remember, if you repeat it with a mistake, you'll become an expert at the mistake. That's why it's so important to notice your own mistakes. Don't get mad about them. Everyone makes mistakes, myself included. I miss notes all the time, but I listen for them and then I try and fix them so they don't become a habit. You want to catch them and then work on them so that they'll go away and you can play it as beautifully as possible. Another trick I like using is what I call 5 in a row, no missed notes. Let's say there's one measure I'm always missing a note. Well, I want to take that measure and really master it. So I'll just play that one measure until I can do it 5 in a row, no missed notes. And then you know you've really conquered it. Now, once you feel like you can play the whole thing at metronome 96 with no pauses and no missed notes, well, then bump it up to 100. Then bump it up again to 104. You'll gradually increase that until you're going around 160, which is closer to our performance speed. Now, let me caution you, don't always practice with the metronome. If you always practice with the metronome, it will sound very robotic. Dum, dum, dum. This song is meant to sound lyrical and beautiful, which means it shouldn't sound like you're marching. And the thing about a metronome is it sounds a lot like just really marching and really strict. And this song needs to have a beautiful flow to it. Make sure that each phrase is shaped beautifully, which usually means crescendoing to the middle of the phrase and then getting very soft on the last note. Try and tell an interesting story with your music. Remember, this is the slow, peaceful second movement, sandwiched in between the fast first movement and the fast third movement. So let the listener enjoy this beautiful, calm, and peaceful moment. Let's listen to the entire second movement now. now that we've learned all the way to the end of this second movement, I have a question for you about the form. Is this sonata allegro form? We've learned about sonata allegro form recently when we looked at movement 1, which is in sonata allegro form. And just as a quick review, remember sonata allegro form begins with an exposition, which presents some themes or theme in the tonic key, which I'll represent with this Roman numeral 1. And then we transition to the dominant key, which is built on the 5th note of the scale, and then that all repeats. That's the exposition. So we have theme group 1, theme group 2, and then we get the development where we usually don't know what key we're going to go in. Just a little bit. There we go. That's my question mark to show we don't know what key we're in. That's the development, and then in the recapitulation, once again, we return to this main theme, number 1, and then instead of transitioning to the dominant, we stay in the tonic for theme group 2, and then that all repeats again. And in a nutshell, that's sonata allegro form. Here's the exposition, here's the development, this question mark section, and put a little dotted line there, and then here's the recapitulation where we hear these same themes we heard before, but this time staying in the tonic key. Now, pause the video and look at this and try and tell me if you think this is sonata allegro form or not. Then press play and we'll look at it together. Okay, let's try and figure this out together. We know we're in the key of F, so what is tonic in the key of F? Well, F is tonic, okay? Your 1 chord is an F chord. And we start off with that. And here's our main theme group 1. Bum, 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 ba, da, 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 dum. Okay, we could call that our theme group number 1. And then here's a continuation of theme group 1. Okay, and then that feels like a cadence telling me that we're at the end of theme group 1. Now, what comes next? If we're in sonata allegro form, we would expect to modulate to the dominant. Well, what note is the dominant in F? Let's see. We just count up to the 5th note of the scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That is C. So the dominant is C. Do we go to the key of C? Well, in the key of C, there are no black keys. So we would have to cancel this B flat. Well, let's look, starting here. Aha, a B natural. We've canceled the B flat. Let's see if that continues. Da, 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 da. We canceled the B flat here and here and here. And then we cadence on what note? We've got C's here with this E to kind of make the chord sound more beautiful. We have gone to the key of C here, which we can tell because we cadenced on this C and we canceled all the B flats, all the things we would expect to see in the key of C. So yes, here we have gone to the dominant for theme group number 2. So far, it's looking a lot like sonata allegro form. Now, the big thing that's missing is no repeat. So, well, maybe that's a problem, but let's keep going. So a development is going to be some other key. So what key do we have here? Wow, we have F sharps, we have E flats. What key has a B flat? So remember, we still have our B flats from the key signature. We have a B flat, an E flat, and an F sharp. All of those notes belong to the G minor scale. So temporarily, we go to the key of G minor. which again, in a development, you never know what key you're going to end up in. But then very soon after, the composer Clementi brings us back, gets rid of the E flat, gets rid of the F sharp. You can see those naturals, which are really just courtesy accidentals again. And he's bringing us back to what key? Look, when we get here, we are back in the key of F. Now, so we could call this our development. And then we can call here our recapitulation. Let's check and see. We start in F, and then we need to have the same kind of theme groups, except this time not cancel the B flats. We need to stay in the key of F. So here, remember where we started going to the key of C? Look what happens this time. Same theme, but this time we use the B flats. We're staying in the key of F this time. And we cadence on an F. Once again, no repeat. So if we take away the repeats, we've followed sonata allegro form. So is it sonata allegro form without the repeats? Well, it seems like Clementi was using the form but decided to vary it, which composers do all the time. Remember, a form isn't a rule you have to follow, it's just a path or a pattern that a composer can choose to use, and sometimes they're going to play with it and do something different. Clementi has used sonata allegro form, but taken away the repeats. That's the way he chose to vary that form. Great work today, finishing up Clementi's Sonatina Opus 36, number 1, second movement. On your own, practice hard every day, working in little sections until each section is mastered, then put all those sections together and work on playing it beautifully and artistically. Make it a performance you can be proud of. For slower pieces like this, sometimes I tell my students to try and play their piece so beautifully that it would make your grandmother cry. Cry happy tears, of course. It's just so beautiful. I'm kind of being silly, but it's true that beautiful music does have the power to touch people deeply. And yes, sometimes even make them cry in a deep, happy kind of way. I've cried at times listening to really beautiful music that has touched my heart. It's a special experience. If you practice not just with your fingers, but practice with your heart, your feeling, I know you'll be able to touch someone else's heart with your music. I hope you'll do that. Thanks as always for learning with me, and see you next time. Was my playing beautiful? Are you crying happy tears?
No, your piano bench was on my toe.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay. I'm sure you didn't mean to.
You're so nice to forgive me. You're the best friend ever.
You're the best, too.
Huh? Must be a guy thing.